Welcome back to What's New in the Lou with Alexis Zotos, presented by Caldy's Coffee and recorded right here at Bucket List Podcast Studios. This is your can't miss weekly podcast, the place where you're going to learn about new restaurants, the can't miss events, and of course, the people that make the St. Louis region the best place to live and visit. And always stick around because at the end of each episode, we give you a weekly calendar so you know exactly what's going on all across St. Louis so you don't miss out. Now, we like to talk a lot about new restaurants here, but we've got to always keep the classics in mind. And I am thrilled to be sitting down this week with one of those classics. Annie Gunn has been around for so long, and I am joined by Chef Lou Rook. Thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thanks for having me on, Alexis.
It is always a pleasure to talk to somebody who is really just a legend, if you will, in the St. Louis food scene.
Well, I hate to look at it that way, but that seems to be the tag lately.
Yeah. I mean, you have been at Annie Gunn since 1993.
Yes.
That's a long time.
It's been a while, but it's been great. It's just a great place.
Well, and especially as a chef, I mean, that's a really long time to be at a restaurant.
Yes,
and in the
exactly.
industry in general.
Mm-hmm.
What drew you, let's first off walk it way back to the restaurant business in general?
My parents got in the business when I was like 9 years old. And so as time went on, just came to a decision at Mizzou. Am I going to be a football coach and teacher, or am I going to be a chef? And I went the other way. I became a chef.
I'm going to pause really quickly. I'm going to grab
Okay. Yes.
That's okay. No, you're
Sorry
good.
about that.
Oh, you're fine. I wouldn't have noticed him, but I just looked down and saw him. Okay, a football coach or a chef? Those were the paths.
That was the spot.
Do you ever regret which path you took?
Not really. I mean, I would have loved either one.
Yeah.
I love teaching people and I love football. I mean, it's a huge passion of mine, just like cooking.
Yeah.
So it just, either way worked out.
What was the first job?
Oh boy. First job was probably for my parents' drive-in restaurant.
Okay.
Stock boy for years. And then, soon evolved into running it because you get older and then, it's time for them to have a little bit of a life, things like that.
What was the trajectory of your career? What were those moments that really stick out to you as moments that shaped you?
Well, obviously I had some great hard knocks with my family restaurants. And then when I went to Mizzou and made the ultimate decision, I got a degree there in hospitality management, basically. And then sitting there thinking, well, what are you going to do with that? You better go to the CIA. So I think a real defining factor for me, well, one, I decided to do it, but two, going to the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York, really blew my doors off. I was a little older than the students there, so I think, if you want to use the term, I was a little more mature. I don't know about that, but understanding the drive there and what you had to do to pull out of that school what it can give you, it's pretty amazing. And it gives you kind of a leg up coming out with getting in the job force. Mm-hmm. And I think that was a very defining moment.
What made you decide to come back to St. Louis? When you were in New York, you could have, what was the decision that eventually brought you back here?
Bill Cardwell was opening Cardwell's Clayton, and they literally just opened like in the fall, maybe of '89, maybe something like that. Mm-hmm. And they, my dad sent me a review and said, "Time for you to come home." And that's what the catalyst was.
Okay, a fantastic spot. R.I.P. My in-laws were huge fans. My husband and I spent many dinners there when we first started dating.
And amazing restaurant, the original, and the new one, was new at Frontenac. But Bill and I worked side by side for 3 years. I mean, literally side by side, and incredible friends still today. And once again, that's another part of the adventure of shaping your repertoire and which way you're gonna go. Incredible chef in Virginia that I worked with, completely opposite of Bill. And then you go there, and then you got your own vision of what you want to do, and it all kind of just comes together.
Mm-hmm. And so tell me about how you landed at Annie Gunn's.
Annie Gunn's became my favorite place to go when I was off. I loved the bar, I loved the food, and I would go there and just have a great time. And then the flood of '93 hit and devastated it, and I was helping Harry Bell. I opened Harry's downtown.
Oh. Another
And
legendary spot.
yeah,
Many a days there at night.
there you go. And so when we were training people, I would take our bartender stuff out to Annie's and show them how they greet people and what we need to do and things of this nature. And one day somebody came up to me, so it was in August, and they said, "You know, your beloved Annie Gunn's is underwater." And I thought they meant maybe like a couple feet of water in the basement, because when you're entrenched in an opening like I was in Harry's, you're really not,
You weren't even
what's
aware.
going on around you. And, you know, it was one of the probably the worst flood we've ever had or close to. And about a month after they flooded, Tom came in, Tom Sainert, the owner, with plans to rebuild it. And I was cooking him lunch, and he said, "I'll have Louis come out here and talk to me." And so I did. And he showed me all these plans and the expansion. And he said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, it's exciting, but why would you expand it why change something that wasn't broke?" And he said, "Give me your brother's number," because he's a chef too. And I said, "Why?" He said, "I'm looking for a chef." And I said, "Well, we better start talking." And that's really how it happened. We went to O.B. Clark's about 3 days later, and we drank quite a bit of beer, and we've been pretty much together every day since.
What was that like to get to come into a space that you already loved, that already was beloved by so many across our region?
You know, obviously I was, I think I was about 29, maybe 30 when that happened. And, you know, I loved Annie's. The food was very delicious, very simple, a lot of crossover from the butcher shop. But him wanting to go to the next level required change. But as I was working out there before we opened, and I'd run into regulars, like going somewhere and getting lunch, and be like, "Oh, I can't wait for this. And I can't wait." I'm scratching these things off, then I'm writing them back in. So, you know, we started off with, we changed about 20% of the menu.
Okay.
And it just kind of started evolving in a sense of, a couple years in, people were like, "When are you going to change the menu again?" So it took time to go from what Annie Gunn's was, even though we have the same standards and always wanting to have the great fresh cuisine, to what we are today, or what we, you know, probably evolved into 10 years. Getting menus, you know, we're printing them in house instead of having pre-printed. So now we've got more latitude to work with our farmers and such. You know, we can change on the fly. But all those were baby steps. So you kept this mystique of Annie Gunn's and that regular base of incredible customers together, and think, "Oh, well, now they're getting bigger than, you know, life."
That's
itself.
always that challenge, right?
You got to be careful.
Balancing.
You know, people ask us, "Why do you leave the sandwiches on the dinner menu, not just go?" Well, it changed the whole complexity of the place. You know, you'll have people sitting at the table that are eating a $60 steak, having a grilled cheese sandwich, a burger, and a beautiful piece of fish, and they're drinking a $100 bottle of wine. But everybody's got what they want.
And, you know, that's not easy to do, and to
No.
do it well.
Right.
You know, you can go to a restaurant of some kind and you can find 500 things on a menu.
Right.
Doesn't mean any of them are going to be really good.
Exactly.
So to do that and to do it well, what goes into that?
Well, an immense amount of planning in the beginning, and even now, tons of training. I think the biggest thing is being there, working lots of hours, being committed, and really, you know, it takes an incredible staff. I mean, you really have to get it locked down. And, you know, about 6 months into it, we were really struggling to find people to support me, because I was running around like a crazy man. And it was, you know, so Tom and I were talking, and my dad had quit his job as an executive chef at a country club over in Illinois. And "We got to get you some help." And I said, "Well, no, my dad and I work really good together, but he's an executive chef." And I'll never forget, Tom said, "We cannot not afford to hire him." Because I said, "It's going to cost you some money." And then Dad and I worked together for 25 years.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So he would be the opener at like 7 a.m. We have a full crew that goes in to prep everything daily. And then I would get there between 9 and 10, and then I'd run lunch and dinner. But seriously, probably for the first 15 years, I probably worked the line, both services, at least 5 out of the 6 day week for at least 15 years. Wow. And then as time went on, you know, guys got trained, and you shuffle them in and out. And I was still there all the time. And don't get me wrong, I had time off and, things of this nature, but it just takes one commitment. It takes two, an ownership group like Tom and Jane that are incredible with giving me the latitude to thrive professionally
Mm.
and monetarily. So, that's the recipe. And then, as we create livings, some people come and some people go, but people have a spot where we have longevity, and then you get this consistency
Mhm.
because people aren't moving as fast. You got to have great people.
Right.
You have to have great people.
That's what it comes down to.
I had this incredible staff. I mean, I have an incredible staff now, but somewhere like 10 years ago, I had this incredible crew. Obviously Dad was there, I was there, and there was like 6 other incredibly passionate and a lot of them in the workforce now doing great things. And they all kind of all of a sudden started spinning off and going and doing things. And it all kind of happened over a year or two. And it was a rough patch. I mean, it was trying to rebuild that team took years. But, coming out of COVID, we had to rebuild again because some people never came back to the business.
Sure.
And now you're in a constant state of hiring and training. Yeah,
What you
it's
hear
just what it is.
constantly. What, when you have a moment to talk to people about Annie Gunn's, for someone out there who hasn't been ever or who hasn't been in a long time, how do you describe the restaurant and the cuisine that you work on and you serve?
It's kind of, it's always been something I stumble on, but it's still a restaurant that I never wanted to be a steakhouse. I never wanted to be labeled a steakhouse. But it is.
Mhm.
Okay. And that's great because we really do sell, over 50% is meat. But, when I explain it, it is an Irish pub with the colors of walking into kind of a cave-like Irish pub style with serious elevated cuisine, incredible soups, hospitality beyond none.
Mhm.
And you just come there and have a great time and relax and really take your worries of the day away, hopefully, and that is our goal. That's how I explain it.
I love it. Well, and you mentioned both the quality of the food and the food at the same level of hospitality. I mean, both those things go such hand in hand
Right.
with, I think, what people think of when they think about Annie Gunn.
Yeah, in the 70s and probably in the 80s, you could get by on food alone. But as time has gone on, and I preach this every day at our staff meetings, the hospitality is what wins it now. Because everybody, in my mind, has their favorite chef,
Mhm.
their favorite restaurant, their style of food they like. And when they come there, they might not enjoy my food as much as I think they should, right? But if you read, so, obviously the social media craze with people reviewing you, when you read most of the time, you'll see, the food was really good, but I could have a better meal here. But the service was impeccable. You see that. Well, you don't see people not caring for the food that much, but when it does happen, typically our service will save the day.
Right.
And that's kind of the goal. Yeah, obviously, the goal is not to have anybody dislike the food, but like I said,
You want them to like them both.
Yeah,
but-
exactly. But sometimes, we just can't please everybody.
Mhm.
So we really drive the hospitality factor home even more so than we've always done it, but now it's just, you're on the front lines and you guys make it or break it.
You mentioned reviews. As a chef, how much do you take those to heart?
Every time somebody picks on you, it hurts.
Mm.
But I can remember a great football coach, Dick Vermeil, and when the Rams were so bad, and it was the season before they went to the big house and won everything, right? And they were just horrible. And Dick became a great friend, and he came to Annie Gunn's a lot. And somebody on K-Fans asked him, when you get up on Monday or Tuesday morning and all the reviews are coming in, on the sports page and everything, how do you handle all the negativity? Because it was really bad at that point. And he said, you know what you do? You read them. You extract information that might be something as a learning tool for you or your staff or your team, and you move on. And that's how you try to look at it that way, but it does hurt.
Yeah.
It does. I was reading something the other day. I'm like, oh, no, it's a learning moment. Don't worry about it. You're going to be okay. You know what I mean?
Even to this day, you're still learning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you ever stop learning, then it's time to pick another occupation because I think there's so much room for growth still, and there's so many things to learn in food and wine and hospitality that it never ends.
Caldy's Coffee has been proudly roasting in St. Louis since 1994. Guided by a commitment to quality, service, and community, Caldy's strives to make every cup a moment of discovery. And get this, thanks to the support of their St. Louis community and fans across the country, they were named USA Today's #1 coffee chain in 2024. Visit Caldy'sCoffee.com to find your nearest cafe, shop coffee for home, or even book a free tour and cupping at their roastery. Follow the goat to your next great coffee experience. Enjoy the rest of the episode. On the flip side, when you get those incredible honors, James Beard recognitions,
Mhm.
the top critics here in St. Louis, naming you guys as best restaurant and things like that. What do those mean to you?
Oh, they mean incredible. I mean, you're there striving for one, your ultimate satisfaction is the people that come in and how happy they are. It's an incredible feeling. But the accolades that are out there that it not only is good for your soul, it's also good for the soul of the people that are working so hard with you
Mhm.
to get these honors, and they really are honors. I mean, the amount of dedication that goes into very serious restaurant. Is amazing. But and to be honored is it's like, okay, we did that. What are we going to do next? But I also had this learning situation with the honor when we got voted best restaurant in St. Louis or some maybe it was Missouri or something. And sitting at the corner of the bar that day was a VP for Anheuser Busch, and he said, "Oh, chef, congratulations! How's it feel to be on top?" I said, "Well, it's a big honor." He said, "Remember this." Once you make it to the top, you got to work harder to stay on top because everybody's coming for you.
Mm.
And that was when AB was the big boys, and the Bushes owned it, and they were just proud of their brand, and they worked it hard every day to keep it there. And so I've never forgotten that little moment because it's a very humbling. You can get an honor, and then, next year, like what happened,
Mhm.
so it humbles you as well.
What, when you think about those kinds of successes, what do you define as success for either from, the perspective of as a chef or the success of a restaurant in general in today's day and age where people's choices seem really infinite when it comes to
Yeah.
going out to eat?
It's true. That's a great question. I look at his longevity, and not longevity just hanging around and surviving. Longevity of still being innovative, still being productive, still having growth, still having people wanting to come to your restaurant. We put a massive expansion on 2 years ago, and spent a lot of money, put a lot of pressure. Our CFO and I we go over it every day, but and it just was so well received. You had no idea. We knew we had people that might come, but what
Mhm.
if you don't get this many,
Right.
So I think the success is related to that quite a bit. And our incredible following makes you feel so good. Incredible friends, customers. And then after that, it's just alluding a little bit on my end and not just generalizing the restaurant business, but the people that you train and where they go and what they do. That's a level of success as well.
Yeah.
When they're out making differences in the culinary world or they're the next generation, training the next generation, because that's the only way it's going to keep going
Mhm.
before it becomes kind of plastic.
How much of that coaching background do you utilize in the kitchen when you're coaching these younger, folks that are in this industry?
I think it happens all the time. I have all kinds of dumb sayings. They look at me, especially this younger generation. They look at me and say, "How old are you?" I said, "Believe me, it doesn't make sense now, but trust me, you will understand it." But no, I think anytime you're in a sports situation and you can adapt philosophies of coaching and things of this nature, if you've had some great mentors and coaches, it's the same thing.
Mm.
How do you build a great team? How do you motivate a great team? How do you make a team mature? How do you make them be respectful? And you got to be very careful. And the game has changed so much over the, I don't know, 30 years at Annie's and 10, 15 years before that of the different ways that you can work with people because of the mindset is so different, especially now.
Yeah. You mentioned innovation and how that, is something that keeps Annie Gunn's since 1937. I mean, that's wild to have a restaurant that's just not only been around that long, but has been so successful. I mean, you guys have weekends all the
Yeah.
time where you can't get a reservation. You guys are booked out. How does that innovation in the kitchen play a role?
Our philosophy, or mine anyway, in the kitchen, which has been there a long time, is we want to keep it creative.
Mhm.
We want to show that we are still on the edge with the cooking in the cooking world, but at the same time, we try to keep it to a level where people will understand it, and it's not something that they're going to go, "Now, what would that be?" Or they're
You
reading.
got to Google it while you're sitting there.
Exactly. Or you're reading a menu card and you're like, I'm afraid to even ask what that is. You know what I mean? Now that sounds archaic on my end, but right now with where I'm at professionally, I've got some really good, young, innovative young men and women, and I'm opening it up a little bit and letting them do things and good reception, and so I think that's what you do. You can't lose your identity,
Mhm.
the worst thing you want to do though is because there's been all kinds of incredible, great restaurants that we've had in this city,
Mhm.
and some of them have gone by the wayside, which is really bad. But sometimes nobody wants it, and it's just time to close.
Mhm.
But sometimes you lose your edge, and the next thing you know, you're tired, and everybody's passed you up, and you're a has been,
Mhm. Mhm.
and we don't want that. We're
Yeah.
not ready for that, and we're not going to hopefully train the next generation where it won't ever come to that. And that brings on Liam, Tom and Jane's son, who's going to be taking over the company at some point. He shares the same passion. So I think it's got good legs to go for a long time.
I love to hear that.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the menu right now. We're in that, transition stage. All you couldn't tell because it's still 90 degrees outside. But one day it's going to be fall here soon. Talk about what's in store as you guys start switching those menus from a seasonal perspective.
Yeah, so like a week ago, you could see it changing on the farmer sheets. You start seeing apples, you start seeing pears, you start seeing, a few different greens. They start running out of heirloom tomatoes like crazy.
R.I.P.
We got a little bit of this, we got this. And so then all of a sudden, we had that week where it was cool.
Right.
And everybody's like, oh, it's time for fall.
Soup.
Yeah, exactly. And then they, come back to the heat. But yeah, so, we're transitioning from things like pork chops with peaches to smoked and braised, apple braised pork shanks, and new duck dishes with, pears probably. I haven't finished that one yet, but changing the foie gras to more seasonal. We got a great pork belly dish going on with some pomegranates and lyonnaise potatoes. I mean, just, and then it'll get into, then all of a sudden you'll have this really fun part of fall, and then it'll go to all brown winter. And you like that for about a month, and then everybody's like, when is spring coming?
Right? I know. It's interesting. I want to go back. You said the farmer sheets. I think a lot of people don't fully understand how, seasonal chefs, how they do it. So you're getting this list essentially of what the farmers have.
When the local farmer thing really started back when I was at Cardwell's with Bill and I together, I mean, the farmer would come through the back door and he would say, well, I got this and this, and it's going to be around. And you'd write a menu around all this beautiful stuff. And it wasn't a lot because there wasn't a lot of farms doing that. And then all of a sudden you'd have it in print and the farmer wouldn't show up. And you call him up, you bringing my the fennel?
Yeah.
Well, I just got a late start today. This kind of stuff. So the way that it's evolved is the farmers, one, we have more farmers. Yeah. Two, the farming process, they've done such a great job of taking what we have for us weather-wise and elongating seasons. And then now you've got guys who've gone out and set co-ops up, and then you have a distribution, so it's a little more, but you get, we have 3 or 4 of those, and you get sheets, and they list it out, and you go through and decipher what you want to do, and they deal with everything now, full dairy products. I mean, every type of protein, and it's all within 150 miles of here, so it's really cool.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite season to cook?
Oh boy, that's hard. But I'd have to say the summer.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that, I think everything that we grow locally
Mm-hmm.
is at peak performance in our summer.
Yeah.
Peaches, nectarines, the berries early, just tomatoes. I mean, the stuff that we get from our farms are just, and don't get me wrong, the early fall is good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, Nicola does an incredible job with her cultivated mushrooms, which that goes year round. But I'd have to say summer is the time to really have the local stuff. I mean, have local all the time, but where it really flourishes.
This summer. Yeah. Talk a little bit about, we talk about the seasonal from a produce standpoint, but meat is something that you guys are just known for. Talk
Yeah.
about that relationship with the proteins and how you connect the market with the restaurant, what's coming out on the plates every night.
Yeah. So all the seafood, I procure all that for both places. So that's what we do there. So everything that typically I'm featuring is in our case next
Mhm.
door. And as far as meats go, we both, Paul Sissel is our head butcher. We work with local farms with heritage hog quite a bit, chicken, a little bit of local beef, not a lot because a lot of it is grass fed, and
Mm.
I'm gonna get booed on this one, but I'm not a big grass fed beef uh, proponent, and but what we do is we buy together and we try to do as much locally because it is better. Period. I mean, that's what you can do, and sometimes we run into problems with the local items, not so much chickens and poultry and things like this, but the pig because when you're dealing in the hog, people want the pork chops. Well, where's everything else going? The market can move a lot of that,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously we got our great sausage making and stuff, but sometimes you have to go outside the box a little bit. But we try to keep it within Illinois or Iowa
Mm-hmm.
with the Heritage Hog program, things like that.
Is there an ingredient that you will never have in your kitchen?
Green peppers, kiwi.
Okay. What's wrong with green pepper?
They're they're bitter when you cook them. And we were having this, and so
Kiwi makes sense.
kiwi,
makes sense.
green peppers, and I'm sure there's a couple more. And my Sue's give me crap about it all the time. You will never see that. But the kiwi, I think, happened because I had this incredible French chef, and the cover of this magazine, he came into the kitchen. It was a Dover sole with a kiwi butter sauce going across, and it looked delicious. But he said, "Wow, I can't say what he said." And he was a little bit more French, and it was hard to understand. But basically what he said was, don't ever do this. That was it for me. I'm done with kiwi.
All right. Good to know. Good to know.
But no, I mean, there is a couple things like that. And green peppers just cook up better. I think green peppers are good for dipping in hummus and things of this nature. So whereas a green pepper needed, I usually use a poblano or something of that nature. So
is there something that you always love to cook? I don't know, do you cook much when you're outside of the restaurant?
cook dinner at home probably 3 to 4 nights a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What's something that you're leaning to when you're in your own kitchen and, at home? What are you making?
Well, a lot of chicken thighs,
Okay.
whether they're roasted or sauteed or grilled. Lots of vegetables. Typically in the house, you'll spend at home, between my dad and my wife. We'll sit there and then at the end, we'll have these beautiful proteins. And God, the vegetables were good.
Oh, you love
I mean,
that.
no one's like,
You love when a vegetable's the star
I know,
of the
it's
show,
just
right?
exactly. So, it's so funny when you talk to people, just your friends and stuff, and you say, so how do you guys plan your meals? And everybody gets confused with the protein because how many nights a week can you eat chicken?
Right.
Some people can eat it forever, but it does get tiring. Then, me, I love beef and I love pig, and but you can't eat it every night. So, okay, Tuesday we're gonna have chicken thighs.
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday we're gonna have ribeyes if they look good at the market. Hey, we should do a pork steak. Now you're on Friday, and I won't be home Friday. Then Saturday, and you're like, man, we just had everything. Should we do beef again? I said, I'm going for beef.
Do you get to go out much to restaurants around town?
Yeah, we go out probably once a week.
Yeah.
Try to, maybe once every 10 days.
Do
But
you have a favorite restaurant around?
Oh God. Well, the hard part is with, it's usually me coming home and saying, I'm not cooking tonight.
Yeah.
Let's go out for dinner. That's usually what happens. And so we try to keep it close. And so the go-to, and one of my best friends in the business is Palmano's. That's one of my favorite spots in the world. But and it's in good proximity to the house. But we like the Napoli restaurants, and a good friend of ours just opened a restaurant called Il Forto, Osteria Il Forto out in O'Fallon, and it's a little Italian joint, and they're just they're doing a great job there.
Jotting that down.
But the problem, so we don't get in town very often because we live out in Cottleville. And there's a lot of really cool stuff happening. And I keep telling Alicia, we've got to expand our horizons to go try some of these new places. And we will at some point.
There's a lot of exciting stuff happening in the St. Louis dining scene. When you think about sort of the legacy of sort of our dining scene, when you see it on the national stage, when we get that recognition from a national perspective, what excites you when people start thinking of St. Louis that we all have known that we're a food town?
I think towns evolve, commitment to cuisine. So to give you an idea, 12 years ago, I started dating Alicia. She lived in Olathe, Kansas. So we did the I-70 dating routine and spent a lot of time in Kansas City. And 12 years ago, when I first started visiting Kansas City, the culinary scene there was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, what's going on? I know you're wrong. We have our good stuff, but I thought they were a little farther ahead of us. Well, I just spent a couple of days there. Well, one day, and I researched everything, best new restaurants, and a lot of the oldies but goldies pop up. But I think their scene's a little flat, and I think ours is in great stride right now, and it's very innovative, and it makes sense, and people are excited. The chefs are doing really cool stuff. I mean, just a lot of, Robin getting that great accolade the other day. I can't remember the publication.
New York Times.
New York Times, yeah. I mean, what an honor.
Huge.
Like you asked about honor lately. I mean, I got goosebumps talking about it because that's such a great thing for them and for our region. Yeah. So I really think it does. And now, with all this influx of good young talent, hopefully they're cultivating and we can keep this thing moving and just keep uplifting the culinary world here.
I love it. I love it. I love bragging about our food scene. And, you talk about the new spots, but then you've got the old spots that just keep going and keep surprising everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we got a lot of both of those, and we're really on an upswing. And I'm not taking anything away from Kansas City. If there's any Kansas City people that are going to come hunt me down, because I still went out and had a wonderful meal.
Well, there you go.
But it's, I think it's a little stale there. Yeah. And I look at ours as not stale whatsoever right now.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Chef. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
And as always, we end each episode with a look at what's going on in St. Louis this week so you can know exactly what's happening. Let's dig into it. Brookdale Farms Fall Festival is happening Wednesday through Sunday of this week. Think corn mazes, all those fall fun activities. This is also Apple Fest weekend at Eckert's Farm in Belleville, happening on Saturday and Sunday. And Evolution Festival is this weekend in Forest Park, happening Saturday, the 27th through the 28th. Tower Grove Pride Festival is also this weekend from the 27th through the 28th. And on Saturday, you can hit up Macklin Days and celebrate all things local in South City on Saturday, September 27th. As always, don't forget to subscribe so you can stay in the know with what's going on in St. Louis across the region. Thanks for listening.